Hey, how's it going, do-it-yourselfers? So as some of you may know, recently a jerk in a big red truck backed into my precious Audi over here. Now of course he didn't leave me his number, but he left me these dents on this left quarter panel and on this left rear door, as you can see. So I decided, since I kind of live with this guy and the odds of him denting up my cars are rather large, to go ahead and buy me a paintless dent repair kit off Amazon. And again, and as always, if you end up being interested in this kit, I'll put a link to where I bought it on Amazon down below in the description box, so you can click on it and check it out for yourself. Actually, I have not opened this bag since I got it from Amazon. This thing came just like this inside of a box from Amazon. So let's open it and see what's exactly inside this bag. All right, first up, here's our LED line board. It works off of a USB. Here's a look at our slide hammer. This should screw on here like this. Here's our T hand puller. I really like these things. Here's a wedge. Here's a small hammer with a rubber screw-on tip. And here's a larger hammer with a round metal tip. And we got an assortment of these rods, different sizes and different shapes. Use this to get behind dents and try to push them out. Here's our glue gun. Let's not forget our glue sticks. And here's another tool I use for finishing up your work when you're removing dents with this PDR kit. You can use this pointy tip or change this tip out to any of these tips that you see here, depending on what you're trying to do. Oh, hey, look, there's another assortment of these rods. Looks like we got a total of 10 of these. And here's a hand-operated dent puller. This really works for only small dents. And all the pullers here work by putting some glue on these plastic tabs, of which we got about a 20-piece set of different sizes and different shapes. So for example, I go at the end of this thing, you squeeze the trigger, it pulls out the dent, and you can also adjust how much you pull by this adjusting knob up here. And last but not least, a bridge puller. So yeah, these go on the two sides of the dent. Glue here, you screw this down, pulls out the dent. And again, an assortment of pullers for the bridge puller. Well, as far as what we're going to use, well, first we're going to put these plastic tabs on our dents. Then we're going to use this slide hammer and this T-puller. Now, before we get started, I think I need to clarify my plans about this whole dent situation here and why I'm going to be using the paintless dent repair kit. Because as you might have noticed, a paintless dent repair kit removes dents. It doesn't do anything about missing and damaged paint. All right, now as you can see, most of the dent is on this door, right by this door handle. Hopefully you guys can see this, but right here, this area is pushed in pretty bad, but lucky enough, right around the edge where it meets the quarter panel doesn't seem to be a major problem. Also, there's a dent, and this area up here has been pushed in as well. But my main concern is this, being able to pull this out properly. Because if I can't pull that out using the paintless dent repair kit, my other option is probably to use a stud welder. I would have to sand this area down to bare metal, then weld on a stud, and use a slide hammer or a T-puller to pull this area out. And unfortunately, in this area where we have the dent, we also have this factory body line that goes from the rear all the way to the front of the car. Now, in this rear quarter panel area where we have the dent, if it wasn't for this damaged paint right on the edges, theoretically, we could have probably only used the PDR kit to get rid of this dent and bring it to near perfect condition. But since I really care about this car, and so do a lot of you apparently, I plan on using the PDR kit to pull these dents, get the body lines to a near perfect condition as the best as I can. And then on both sides, I'm still gonna have to apply a skim of body filler and paint these two panels. Or actually, I'm not gonna paint the entire panels, I'm gonna just paint this area, and we're gonna save that for a different video where you can see how you can just paint a section of a panel without having to clear coat or paint the entire panel. Now, before we use our PDR kit though, we're gonna have to wet sand and polish out all these scuff marks, get rid of all the paint left over from the truck. So we're gonna use some 1500 grit sandpaper, some clean water and a soft sanding block, and sand these out. And now we're gonna polish this area. And I should say that since I'm gonna be spraying and painting this area, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time making sure that it's perfectly sanded and perfectly polished. But if you're working on your car and you don't need to paint your car, then you want to spend some more time and do it right. Now, if you don't know how to polish a car, I have a good video on that, and I'll put a link to it at the end of this video.
Right is the ring of words when the right man rings them. Fair the fall of songs when the singer sings them. Still.
All right, next we need to make sure that this area is completely clean so that the glue with our pull-out tabs can stick to it. And for that, I'm going to use a microfiber towel and a grease and wax remover. Now, if you don't have one of these, you can also use some dish soap to wash down this area and then dry it. Actually, dish soap does a pretty good job of removing wax, grease, or rubbing compound if you use some to polish the area. Do a 1 or 2 pass. No need to rub this in. So here you have it. Here's how it looks now. It looks a ton better already, but obviously still looks like a mess. Also, now that I can see it better, I'm really concerned about this body line right here. As you can see, when it comes in here, it completely gets flattened out. Worst case scenario, I guess we can replace this door. All right, next, we'll get our line board on. It's got 2 suction cups at each end. We're gonna attach one to a flat surface on our body panel and the other half to the back of our line board. And next, we'll plug it in, and look at that. Now you guys can probably tell better exactly where all the dents are. And next we'll plug in our heat gun and make sure you wait until this is nice and hot and ready. And we're gonna start by pulling from near the edge of the dent. So this dent up top, we're gonna start by pulling from this area, and this larger or harder dent on the bottom, we're gonna start by pulling from this area probably. And next, right before we start attaching our pull-out tabs, we'll grab ourselves some 91% rubbing alcohol and clean the area using a new microfiber towel. This ensures both that any leftover grease and wax is removed, but also that this area is completely dry so that we get good connection between our tabs and this panel. I'm going to be using this black glue stick made for most temperatures, not extremes, but rather, about average temperatures. I'm going to be applying a generous amount. Then we're gonna place this here, hold it for a few seconds, then let it go, and we're gonna wait about a minute before we start using it. Next, we'll grab our slide hammer, put it on there, and do a nice clean pull. Nothing. All right, let's try a different tab. And I may not have let the glue warm up properly on the previous try. Push it in nice and firm. All right, let's try this again. Come on. Oh yeah. Hopefully you guys can see this thing being pulled out. Now I could yank this really hard and detach this from the panel, but since this is a rather deep dent, I'm just going slowly so I have some control over this. But once this is almost all the way pulled out, then I'll yank it out. There we go. We're gonna spray this with alcohol and then try and scrape off the old glue residue. Now, unfortunately, this car being a black car, it's hard to see this dent actually, but we did pull some of it out around the edges. I saw it to start pulling in, and also the body line is starting to come back. And best way to remove this old glue residue, especially from these, since they have a pretty good texture on them, is to simply let them soak in some rubbing alcohol. And since I got a lot of these in this kit, I don't have to wait for that, and I can just keep going. All right, let's keep going. All right, we didn't get as much pull as I liked with the second pull, but as you can see, there's a high spot right here up top, and I think that's what's keeping us from being able to pull more of this out. I might have been too close to the center, so I'm actually gonna put a smaller one up here and then use the T-puller and maybe try to tap down on this area with the rubber mallet that came with this kit, see if we can pull this high spot down. All right, let's try this. Yeah, I would say we made decent improvement to the high spot around here. Now let's try the slide hammer, but here's where you want to be somewhat careful, because if you pull this out too much, then you're going to have to tap it back down again. So we're going to start off slow. All right, now since I think I have about 15 or so pulls to get this dent to where I want it to be, I'm gonna stop talking and start pulling. But I'll let the camera keep rolling so you guys can see how we progress through this. And also I think you guys have the basic idea. You know, in so many words, you wanna start from around the edges and start pulling slowly. And if there are any high spots around the edges, you wanna gently tap them down and pull at the same time so you can get this dent out. All right, I'm done, and it's a good news, bad news sort of deal. Let me show you. All right, so as far as the quarter panel goes and the body line on the quarter panel goes, we were able to make great improvement. Now, I don't know how well you guys are gonna be able to see this, but there's the body line right there. And if you follow it all the way up to the door, we will be able to restore most of it. But that's not a major issue. I'm confident I can fix that with some body filler. However, as far as the door goes, well, on the dent up top, we also made a lot of improvement, but I stopped working on this because, for starters, I cannot pull this part out. This part being right next to the lip, and the weld and the thicker metal here is really hard to pull out. Might be able to push it out from if I take the door panel off and get behind it. However, that's no use because this body line here, when it gets to this dent, has been completely flattened out. Even if I pull this out perfectly and this dent, of which I was able to pull out most of it, this body line is not gonna come back. So it looks like I'm gonna have to go find the left rear black door for this car, which shouldn't be that hard since there's a lot of these out on the road. However, even though the door I'm gonna get is black, I still have to paint it and blend it into the quarter panel and the front driver's side door, so it doesn't stand out. I'll say this though, if I can't find the black door, what I'll have to do is sand this down all the way to bare metal, then use a stud welder to bring out this dent, and then use body filler around the body line. You know, take this off, then use body filler around the edges to try to remake that body line through here. However, I really don't want to do that. That's a lot of work. I'd rather just buy a new door and slap it on here. Also, just a heads up, I broke 3 or 4 of these tabs while trying to pull out the dent. Now, it might be due to poor quality of the tabs or poor technique, or for whatever reason, I think my muscles that work this position are a little too strong. So next time I might, I don't know, pull it this way, try to use different muscles, pull it this way. Now, I probably don't do that, but you know, yeah, just use different techniques. So there you have it, folks. Now, if you enjoyed this video and want to support my channel, do me a favor and subscribe to my channel. But more importantly, check out these other related videos, of which I put links to on this side of the screen. I'll put one up here up top, one below it, or you can also click on any of my videos in the description box as well. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.